Part 50. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 505. Does she like Brother Guang? There is a story between her and Brother Guang. Yuki Ichinos has a very smart mind and quickly realized the situation. She glanced sideways at Kurosawa Hikaru beside her, but said nothing. She chose to remain silent and watch what happened. Did you see me last night? The lonely and gloomy Nanami Iharu looked at him with a pair of beautiful eyes, trembling constantly, not knowing whether it was joy or sorrow, and she was about to cry. As soon as these words came out, the two best friends who were following her were startled, and others were also shocked. Huh, best friend A, who has no brains or foresight, is Miwayabuki. Iharu, did you meet Kurosawa last night? The slightly smarter best friend B is Kiku Kawatama. Yesterday, Kurosawa Hikaru brought a beautiful girlfriend back to his hometown. In less than half a day, it was served on the dining tables of every household. It is impossible to hide this matter. Ai Ching, who has always been the most concerned about Kurosawa Hikaru's affairs, will definitely be hit hard when she learns this news, no less than a bolt from the blue, like falling into the abyss. As relatives and friends, they called their friends and coaxed Nanami Iharu out of the house, and ran away specifically to prevent her from running into Kurosawa Hikaru and his girlfriend, and bringing her a lot of trouble. Secondary damage. That's right, it's secondary damage. Because in the morning, when they went to Nanami's house as a group, Nanami Iharu's eyes were a little red and swollen, as if she had been injured after crying all night. If she were to see it with her own eyes, Kurosawa Hikaru's scenes with other girls would be a torture. But now, when everyone hears such a conversation, a picture comes to mind. Last night, Nanami Ayaka learned that Kurosawa Hikaru took his girlfriend back to his hometown. She didn't know what kind of psychological activities she went through. It might also be that her parents asked her to go shopping at a convenience store and chose to go out. However, when she went to the convenience store, she accidentally bumped into Kurosawa Hikaru and his girlfriend shopping. She hid as if running away and could only watch them from a distance. It's hard to imagine what kind of mood Nanami Iharu felt when she fell asleep last night. To be precise, she didn't meet me last night, she found me, just like now. Seeing that she was once again surrounded by stars, protected and cared for by everyone, Kurosawa Hikaru corrected her. He didn't know what methods Nanami Iharu used. As long as he went out, he could grasp his whereabouts very accurately, creating chance encounters again and again. But what is certain is that whether it was last night or now, it was Nanami Iharu who took the initiative to find her. Otherwise, there would be no such coincidence in this world. Even if he was destined to be with Mikibayu, they only met him by chance a few times, like Nanami Iharu, who had met him by chance so many times in so many years that they were too many to count. In most cases, tone is more important than words and affects people's hearts. Kurosawa, you completely ignore Nanami-san's sincerity and promise to wait for you. You just want to date other girls in Tokyo. You are still sarcastic in this tone. Isn't it too much? Because Kurosawa Hikaru's dissatisfied tone was too harsh, the boy who was the first to stand up and stood in the middle felt very uncomfortable. He couldn't hold back and accused him. That's right. Everyone else nodded in agreement, feeling that he had gone too far. Kurosawa, are you trying to say that Ai Ching met you here and came here on purpose? Kiku Kawatama was about to comfort Ai Ching, but when she noticed Kurosawa Hikaru's attitude, she couldn't bear it anymore. That's right. Kurosawa Hikaru nodded and decided that was the case. Don't you think it's ridiculous? Kaiking has been with us today. We have been carrying her around today. How could she be here to find you? Kiku Kawajo was very angry when she saw his attitude. Is it really you who took her away, not her who took you away? Facing her glare, Kurosawa Hikaru was not angry, he only found it funny, as if he was watching a farce. He used to be too lazy to pay attention to it, but now that he saw it again, it was really a good show. It's like this every time. Nanami Iharu is always surrounded by many people, trying to use everyone's persuasion and coaxing to get him to agree. If it were anyone else, after years of being teased by everyone, plus the fact that the girl always acted like she was truly infatuated and a victim, she would have succumbed long ago. It's a pity that he never had the idea of giving it a try, so he was not overwhelmed by this momentum. She was dragged out by us to relax, of course it was us. When Kikukawa-jo saw that he was still laughing, she immediately became furious, stamped her feet and glared angrily. Zugzu, let's go. Before she could continue the confrontation, Nanami Ayaharu reached out and took her arm, trying to leave. Kaiking, I can't bear it anymore. I must make it clear to him today. Seeing her speak, Kikukawa-jo didn't even finish her words, so he just threw her hand away without wanting to leave. Kaiking, don't cry. But before she could continue to have an attack, she suddenly panicked when she saw the latter's state. I saw Nanami Ayaharu's beautiful eyes, which were filled with a layer of water. There were tears in the corners of her eyes. Her slender body was trembling slightly, as if she could no longer bear the blow and would fall down at any time. This scene was like a bomb that suddenly exploded, causing everyone to panic. Nanami Ayane has been very beautiful since she was a child, with a well-behaved and soft personality, gentle and timid. In everyone's eyes, she has always been the group's favorite, and usually she is reluctant to let her be unhappy. As a result, at this moment, she cried, crying so sadly, on the verge of breaking, pitiful, and distressing. Let's go, don't bother with him. Nanami classmate, he is not worth your tears. He will definitely regret it. Instantly, everyone was coaxed, extremely distressed, and surrounded her and wanted to leave. Kurosawa Hikaru saw her innocent and pitiful eyes before she was blocked by everyone, and sneered with her arms folded, and did not speak. If Nanami Ayane had not encountered him countless times since childhood and created many such famous scenes, he would probably feel distressed when he saw such a scene, and even feel guilty, wondering if he had done something wrong. It's not like he had never experienced situations where he said something harsh and excessive, causing others to cry. This was the case with Miki Shiraha at the skating rink. But unlike Miki Shiraha's pitiful and heartbreaking tears, which were like a knife piercing his chest, making him feel like he was struck by lightning and regretful, he saw Nanami Ayaharu crying. Not only did he not feel distressed, but he found it funny. Does this woman have the right to cry? Being liked by her is not a blessing for him, but a disaster. Because Nanami Ayaharu likes to confess in public, he has been morally kidnapped for many years and has suffered countless misfortunes inexplicably. Maybe they have known each other for many years since childhood, but even so, he can't be sure whether Nanami Ayaharu really likes him, or likes pursuing him, being rejected by him, and being held in the center of everyone's care. Kurosawa-san, I'm sorry for causing you trouble. After a while, the crowd was separated, and Nanami Kaiking took a few steps forward, bowed and apologized to Kurosawa Hikaru. I hope you really know that you have caused me trouble. Kurosawa Hikaru was too lazy to argue with them about their dissatisfaction. They were just a group of people who were fooled around. He just followed her words and said coldly, Kaiking, why are you apologizing to such a person? You didn't do anything wrong. He is wrong. He didn't stay with you. It will definitely be the decision he regrets most in his life. You don't know what's good for you. Seeing this scene, everyone became restless again. Are you going to leave or not? Just then, Ichino's Yuki couldn't stand it anymore and said angrily. Although she didn't know this woman, and didn't know what story this woman had with Brother Guang. But from the beginning, every word and every action of this woman has caused a group of people to criticize Brother Guang and accuse him constantly. She didn't know what Brother Guang did wrong, but she felt that this woman was not a good person. Hearing this, the people who were still besieging Kurosawa Guang immediately looked at Ichino's Yuki. The three boys in the team wanted to speak, but when they saw Ichino's Yuki's stunning beauty, they stopped thinking again. Is this road yours? What does it have to do with you whether we walk or not? Kiku Kawatsumuji didn't like her in the first place, and when she saw her talking like this, she immediately counterattacked unceremoniously. This road is indeed not my house, but so many of you are standing together blocking the road. Are you going to leave? If not, please make way, we still have to go home for dinner. Ichino's Yuki is not a soft persimmon that can be bullied by others, and is stronger than her. This group of people, a total of 8 people, gathered together, although they didn't block the road, but it was also difficult for people to pass. Kiku Kawatsumuji paused after hearing this, and wanted to refute, but she didn't have the confidence, because they really blocked the road. In addition, because of the noise just now, some passers-by began to watch the show. I wish you happiness. After apologizing, Nanami Ayaharu straightened up. Seeing that Yuki Ichino's had such a strong personality, she was a little surprised and turned around and left. As she left first, the others looked at each other and followed. Several boys in the team couldn't help but look back at Yuki Ichino's before leaving. Although they heard rumors last night that the girlfriend that Kurosawa Hikaru brought back from Tokyo was as beautiful as a model star and a super beautiful girl, but now seeing her, it was really amazing, making people want to appreciate it more. As for the girls, they didn't have so many thoughts. Some of them even glared at Kurosawa Hikaru, thinking that he was a scumbag and was ashamed of Ayaharu. Finally, it's quiet. Seeing them leave, Yuki Ichino's couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. I didn't expect that Yuki has such a handsome side. Kurosawa Hikaru looked at her with some surprise, and was amazed. Let's go back and eat, otherwise uncle and aunt will have to wait for us again. Ichino's Yuki was a little embarrassed by his words, but she still pulled him forward. Not long after, they got on the bus home. There were many people on the bus, but there was no one from Nanami Ayaka. Kurosawa Hikaru recalled what happened just now and felt unlucky. He and Xiao Yuki went to a hot spring hotel for an afternoon. They were in a good mood, but it was ruined just like that. The drive home takes half an hour, and the journey is always boring. Don't you have anything to ask? After a moment of silence, Kurosawa Hikaru looked at Xiao Yuki beside him and took the initiative to open the topic. No. Ichino's Yuki shook her head, but turned slightly sideways, leaning on his shoulder. Her good mood was also ruined. Although she didn't know what the story was between that girl and Brother Guang, she felt really bad when she saw Brother Guang being criticized by everyone. Noticing that her smile was no longer bright, Kurosawa reached out and stroked her hair, his eyes dazed and his heart heavy. At this moment, he probably guessed the purpose of Nanami Ayaharu's chance encounter at the door of the hotel, and what the show was about, making her want to cry again. The first purpose was to make him feel guilty, and meet him walking out with another girl at a place like the entrance of a hot spring hotel. It was like a half-caught rape scene. The second purpose is that Nanami Ayaharu also wants to arouse Xiao Yuki's attention and misunderstanding, so that there will be a rift in the relationship between him and Xiao Yuki, which will become the trigger for breakups and quarrels. Nanami Ayaharu probably wanted to use the farce just now to make Xiao Yuki suspicious. If the situation was serious, Xiao Yuki might get angry, stomp around and walk away, without even listening to his explanation. After all, her boyfriend was entangled with other girls, and all girls would be angry. Unfortunately, the result did not develop as Nanami Ayaharu expected. He would feel guilty, but it was absolutely impossible for him to have such thoughts about Nanami Ayaharu. Because he has no interest in Nanami Ayaharu at all and is not afraid of being seen by her. Xiao Yuki will be concerned, jealous, and misunderstood, but there will be no rift in their relationship with him. Because Xiaoyuki has long known that he is a playboy who is entangled with other women, and her personality is that she will hide and cry when she is wronged, and will not quarrel with him at all. If you want to separate me and Yuki-chan, you can use whatever tricks you want. Thinking of this, Kurosawa Hikaru couldn't help but sneer. Even the original Shuro field of the Budokan failed to break up him and Xiaoyuki. Nanami Ayaharu's small tricks were completely meaningless. Speaking of which, how did Nanami Ayaharu know that Yuki-chan and I came out just now? While thinking about it, Kurosawa Hikaru suddenly thought of a question. Nanami Ayaharu knew in advance that he and Xiaoyuki were at the Hot Spring Hotel. It was not surprising because he was so famous in the Izu Peninsula. He walked in broad daylight and had no intention of disguising or hiding. Someone must have seen him. But as soon as he and Xiaoyuki walked out of the hotel, Nanami Ayaharu happened to pass by the door with a group of people. The time and place were just right. If it was what he thought, Nanami Ayaharu met him and Xiaoyuki at the door of the Hot Spring Hotel. It was definitely not an accidental encounter, but a destined encounter. That means that his course of action and every move are under the control of Nanami Ayaharu. What's more, that ragtag group of people was completely held in the palm of her hand, like an arm and a finger. Did she have an informant at the Hot Spring Hotel, or how did she do it? As his thoughts spread and he noticed these unreasonable things, Kurosawa suddenly felt a shudder. Although he firmly believed that the chance encounter between Nanami Ayaharu and him was definitely intentional and a destined encounter, but the question is, how did she do it? If he had not brought Xiaoyuki back to his hometown this time, Nanami Ayaharu would definitely not have been hiding in the shadows of the alley to the right of the convenience store last night, but would have walked out and had another destined encounter with him. If behind these destined encounters, before he sees Nanami Ayaharu always hides in the dark and sees him first, watching his every move, waiting for a suitable opportunity to talk to him. Nima, this crazy woman. Kurosawa Hikaru felt that his scalp was numb just thinking about it. Suddenly, he discovered that Nanami Ayaharu had been hiding in the dark and watching him since unknown time. Today's writing is rather confusing, so I only have one update, sorry. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 506. We are not afraid of thieves coming to steal, but we are afraid that thieves will miss us. Suddenly discovering this blind spot, Kurosawa Hikaru's whole body felt bad. He had no idea how to deal with Nanami Ayaharu. Trying to use vicious and ruthless words to force her to give up will never work. Because this crazy woman has been rejected by him countless times since childhood, but she just won't give up, he can't refuse verbally, and he doesn't want to use violence, so he can't hit a woman, right? He is also considered a celebrity in the Izu Peninsula. If he really does this, he dares to say that it will spread throughout his hometown within an hour. If I don't go out tomorrow, I'll just stay at home and chat with my parents for a while. I'll go back to Tokyo the day after tomorrow. After much thought, the more Kurosawa Hikaru thought about it, the more unlucky he became, and he soon came to the decision that if he couldn't afford to offend him, he could afford to hide. Anyway, Nanami Ayaharu was studying at Shizuoka University, and he was at Tokyo University. Although the distance was not very far, it was still a big difference between the two cities. Not long after, they returned home. The home-cooked food for dinner was very simple, with no special dishes, but the table was very lively. Although Kurosawa Yayoi hopes that his son will take his girlfriend around, have fun, and eat well. But since my son went to college, he spent very little time at home. Naturally, he was happy to be able to spend more time with him. After dinner, the family also sat in the living room and chatted about home affairs. Unlike last night, after one night, Kurosawa Yayoi completely regarded Yuki Ichino's as her future daughter-in-law and started chatting about her family, such as asking her what her parents did for a living. At 7:30, Kurosawa's cell phone rang with a call. "What's wrong?" Kurosawa Hikaru took a look and found that it was Igarashi Runa's call, so he answered the call. Although he has many girlfriends, I don't know if they have discussed it privately or if they have a tacit understanding. No one will take the initiative to call him. They basically send messages. Of course, there are exceptions. For example, Runa Igarashi, as the company's partner and manager, will still take the initiative to contact her if she has important work matters. Apple called and said they were willing to offer 100 billion. Igarashi Runa's voice was trembling, she was extremely excited, and her joy could not be concealed. She really didn't expect that this contract could really reach the level of 100 billion. As expected of Apple, it's so courageous. What do Sony and Penguin say? Kurosawa Hikaru found out that this was really the case, and his spirits were lifted. After sighing, he also asked. Apple is a very ambitious company, and most importantly, it has deep pockets. And unlike Sony, which has been famous for many years, Apple rose suddenly. Because of this, it is more flexible and less rigid in decision-making. They haven't responded yet. What do we do now? It was the first time Igarashi Runa faced such a sky-high price contract. He had no experience at all and didn't know how to deal with it, so he simply left the decision-making power to him. When you reply to Apple, just say that I'm busy and can't spare time for the time being. I won't have time to meet until the day after tomorrow. In this regard, Kurosawa Hikaru said after pondering. To be honest, 100 billion yen is just the price he expected. If possible, the higher the better, after all, who would think too much money? As for the money, he took it without any guilt. You know, this contract represents 60 songs, and his piano skills have been upgraded to a perfect level. Even he himself doesn't know how high his current level is. Even if he doesn't use the music library from his previous life, he will definitely be able to produce a satisfactory answer based on his piano skills and if he devotes his time to composing. Want to call Penguin and Sony? Igarashi Runa could feel that he wanted to wait for a higher price, so she asked. No, there is no professional ethics in doing this. Moreover, the three companies are very well informed. Even if we don't tell them, they will definitely find out that Apple has taken action. Kurosawa thought for a while and decided that there was no need to put pressure on Sony and Penguin. Moreover, these three companies came to visit them on the same day. He did not think it was a coincidence. Then I'll go answer the question. Igarashi Runa thought about it for a while and asked no more questions. Go ahead. Kurosawa nodded slightly, quite satisfied with this phone call. According to his expectations, the contract will be signed early next month at the latest. Because he will hold a concert at the end of the month, the level of the perfect piano will definitely become the final bargaining chip, and may even allow the three companies to further increase their prices. Having said that, it is not a bad thing to get the money early. Only when you have money can you make money with money. Moreover, fans have been waiting for him to release an album for a long time. If it continues to be delayed, it will take too long. Kurosawa, remember to control yourself, you have more than one girlfriend. Just when he was about to hang up the phone, Igarashi Runa suddenly said. Good. Kurosawa Hikaru subconsciously glanced at little Yuki next to him, as well as his parents who were quiet and watching his phone call, and calmly nodded in agreement. The phone was hung up, and after a brief silence, the living room became lively again. However, no one asked Kurosawa about that phone call, because it sounded like they were talking about business. For Kurosawa's parents, it was fine as long as their son was not on the phone with other girls. There is only one bathroom in this home, and the living room was busy until around 8 o'clock, and people dispersed just because they needed to take a shower. Originally, Kurosawa Yayoi wanted to let her son and future daughter-in-law use the bathroom first, but Kurosawa Hikaru refused because we slept late. Brother Guang, was it Ms. Igarashi who called you just now? Going upstairs to the room, Yuki Ichino sat down on the bed, turned around and kicked off her shoes, and couldn't help but ask. Her pair of soft and small beautiful feet are hanging in the air, and her slender and white legs are simply the legs of a dream, extremely eye-catching. Right. Seeing that she had guessed it, Kurosawa nodded and closed the door. Everyone has guessed the answer. If he still denies it, it would be an insult to Xiao Yuki's intelligence. Are the Sony and Apple you just mentioned the Sony and Apple that I know? Yuki Ichino's was curious again. In Neon, Sony is an out-and-out super large company. It can be said to be a household name, and its products cover a wide range of fields, which is very exaggerated. She just heard the phone call between Brother Guang and Miss Igarashi, as if they were discussing cooperation issues with Apple, Sony, and Penguin. And Apple, for today's young people, knows everything. You know, Neon people particularly like Apple. In the smartphone sales rankings, Apple even occupies 6 places in the top 10, with Apple occupying the top 3 seats. The female high school students around her all use Apple phones. As for the Penguin, she had no impression and didn't take it too seriously. As you know, Sony and Apple, haven't I been busy during this time? It's because they came to me and wanted to discuss cooperation. Seeing her excited and curious look, Kurosawa nodded. Wow, Brother Guang has already started cooperating with big companies like Sony and Apple. Although Ichino's Yuki had guessed it, he was still shocked when he got his confirmation. She looked at him in wonder and admiration. The adoration of a girlfriend is one of the most satisfying things for a man to do to satisfy his vanity. Low-key, the contract hasn't been signed yet, it's still under negotiation. In response to this, Kurosawa Hikaru felt secretly happy and walked forward to sit next to her. Even this is awesome. Although Yuki Ichino's is still a high school student, she has common sense. Whether it's Sony or Apple, although everyone can purchase products directly, if they want to cooperate with them, for most people, they may never have such an opportunity in their lifetime. After all, those are super large companies that are famous all over the world. It's not as powerful as you said. Kurosawa Hikaru was a little embarrassed by her praise. If there are levels of support, Xiao Yuki's level must be very high. No. Seeing how modest he was, Ichino's Yuki, who was still admiring him, suddenly changed his expression and jumped out of bed. What's wrong? Kurosawa Hikari was a little puzzled when he noticed her sudden change of expression. I can't be lazy anymore, I have to work harder. Yuki Ichino's walked a few steps on the floor with her bare feet, walked to the suitcase on the side, and started to rummage through the suitcase. What are you doing? Kurosawa Hikaru was a little curious when he saw her taking out a pair of casual hot pants and a loose t-shirt. I'm going to do yoga, practice my body curves and flexibility, and prepare for the beauty contest, but I didn't bring any yoga clothes, so I'll make do with this set first. Yuki Ichino stretched out his clothes and looked at them before explaining. These days, Brother Guang is busy with other things, and she is not idle either. She is either studying or practicing dance and fitness. Brother Guang, can you go out for a while? I want to change clothes. After finding clothes, Ichino's Yuki took the clothes and found Kurosawa Hikari sitting on the bed looking at him leisurely, and he suddenly felt a little embarrassed. It's not like I haven't seen it before. Kurosawa Hikaru shook his head. This was a bonus. If he went out, wouldn't he see nothing? Brother Guang, please go out for a while. Seeing that he didn't agree, Ichino's Yuki looked like she wanted to stay and watch the show, and she lightly stamped her feet in disbelief. Okay, okay, okay. This act of coquettishness made Kurosawa Hikari's ears and bones go numb, so he could only agree. Women who can act coquettishly have the best luck, girlfriends who can act like a spoiled brat are even more painful. After walking out of the room and into the corridor, Kurosawa Hikaru also took advantage of this free time to read the messages sent by everyone. For the most part, everyone lives their daily lives in the same way, without any ups and downs. For example, Miki Shiraha bathed her feet every day and posted pictures, because that night, she already knew Kurosawa Hikaru's hobby. I saw a few photos she sent from her foot bath. One of them showed her feet stepping on the edge of the bucket. They looked like water hibiscus. They were pink, tender, and moist. It was certified as gourmet grade. Kurosawa Hikaru's heart skipped a beat when he saw it, and he immediately entered text. Don't put it on the bucket and show it in my mouth. However, just when he was about to send it out, he thought it was a bit perverted, so he stopped and did not send it out. What's going on? Kurosawa Hikaru held his mobile phone and walked to the corner next to him while admiring the eye-catching welfare photos sent by his schoolmate. It should be said or not, chatting with other girls when he has a girlfriend, he is not thick-skinned enough to be justified, and he feels guilty. Leaning against the wall can make him feel more secure. But as soon as he walked to the wall, he glanced through the window in the corridor, and the scene that caught his attention caught his attention. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 507. The physical enhancement and talent brought by the perfect archery skills made Kurosawa Hikaru's eyes different from ordinary people. When he concentrates, his pupils can focus and see farther. In addition, he has a strong adaptability to darkness. Although it is impossible to make the night as bright as day and have absolute night vision, he can see more clearly than ordinary people even in the deep darkness. That's why Kurosawa Hikaru came to the window and saw a figure by the wall outside the house, in the dark where the street lights and house lights could not reach. The unexpected object and existence made him look subconsciously. As he looked straight ahead, he saw the figure standing by the wall with his head raised, with reddish-brown hair, wearing a black dress, and snow-white jade arms. That was Nanami Ayase, who was looking up at his house. On her beautiful face, the calm and deep eyes and expressionless look were completely different from her who met her by chance at the door of the Hot Spring Hotel in the afternoon. If she looked weak and gentle, sweet, and beautiful at the door of the Hot Spring Hotel, then at this moment she looked very cold and ruthless, even a little scary. Why is she here? Seeing this scene, Kurosawa Hikaru recognized her in just a moment. However, he saw Nanami Ayaka, but the latter seemed not to notice him. Because he did not turn on the lights in the corridor, it was still quite dark at 9 o'clock and not very conspicuous. She is staring at the window of my room. After observing for a few times, Kurosawa Hikaru noticed the angle of her head and suddenly reacted. This discovery made Kurosawa Hikaru's heartstrings tremble, and he felt a chill running up his spine and straight to the top of his head, which was extremely creepy. Because when you can't notice it, someone is actually staring at you in the dark, although not staring at you directly, even if it is staring at your home and the window of your room, it is also extremely scary. If Xiaoyuki hadn't wanted to change clothes and chased him out for a while, and he hadn't seen the welfare photos sent by other girlfriends, and he was afraid of being discovered, so he instinctively leaned against the wall, he would never have discovered this. What does she want to do? Soon, Kurosawa Hikaru calmed down, looking at Nanami Ayaharu outside the house downstairs, his eyes gradually became unfriendly. He didn't know when Nanami Ayaharu stood there, and he was too lazy to guess. He only knew one thing, Nanami Ayaharu was getting more and more excessive. Last night, he found Nanami Ayaharu peeking in the alley to the right of the convenience store. Although he was dissatisfied, that was it. Because this woman was quite sensible, She hid when she saw him with his girlfriend, and didn't come out directly to cause trouble. She was like this, he couldn't run over and pull others out and embarrass her, right? However, he still underestimated this crazy woman. This afternoon, at the door of the Hot Spring Hotel, Nanami Ayaharu knew that he was with his girlfriend, but still brought people to meet him by chance, and staged a good show. If it weren't for the fact that he and Xiaoyuki had such a good and solid relationship, that good play would probably have caused him to quarrel with his girlfriend. At that time, Nanami Ayaharu had too many followers, and she didn't need to speak out. The 7 followers united to deal with him, and he was with Xiaoyuki by his side, so it was difficult to fight back, and the result was nothing. Because it was difficult to deal with, there was no benefit, and it would cause trouble, he decided to ignore her. If you can't afford to provoke, you can afford to hide. Anyway, he can't stay in his hometown for a few days, and he can go to Tokyo without seeing her. What he never expected was that Nanami Ayaharu came to his house in the middle of the night to watch, and he didn't know what she was planning. Someone is coming. At this moment, Kurosawa Hikaru saw someone coming over not far away and was about to pass by his door. After realizing this, he set his sights on Nanami Ayaharu again, wanting to see what action she would take. You know, standing outside the courtyard wall of someone else's house and looking up at someone else's room, even if you are a girl, this behavior is quite abnormal. At this moment, Nanami Ayane obviously noticed someone coming not far away, and looked sideways, no longer staring at the window. The next moment, her body moved, jumped up, grabbed the wall with both hands, kicked her feet, and actually flipped into the yard. Good skills. Seeing this scene, Kurosawa Hikaru was a little surprised. If a single-family house in Neon has a courtyard wall, it is usually not for thieves, but just to separate the space and protect privacy. But even so, his family's wall is 1.8 meters high, not so easy to climb. However, Nanami Ayane's movements of climbing over the wall are extremely flexible, and can be described as flowing and extremely skilled. It is not easy for a girl to do like her. No, she is a habitual offender. After being subconsciously surprised, Kurosawa Hikaru reacted. Although this crazy woman did not walk around after entering the yard, she just continued to look up at the window on the second floor that was covered by curtains with lights on, which was only separated by a wall from the window outside the wall just now. But judging by her skilled movements, this was definitely not her first time doing this, at least she had practiced before. When did she start doing this? Kurosawa Hikaru finally understood that tonight was probably not a special case. Perhaps a long time ago, Nanami Ayaharu had invaded his yard more than once and stared at his window from outside. Even more, judging from her agility, she might even have climbed to the second floor to peek at him by using various small planes on the floor. You know, his house is a traditional Japanese-style old house, and the floor is not as smooth and neat as a modern house. With this in mind, Kurosawa Hikaru picked up his mobile phone, turned on the camera function, pointed at Nanami Ayaharu and pressed the shutter. Neon's mobile phone was set to have a flash when taking pictures. The light of the flash was too dazzling. Nanami Ayaharu, who had always focused on the window of the room, was photographed for a while, and finally reacted and looked at the window on the side of the corridor. When they turned their heads, the eyes of the two people suddenly collided. One was upstairs, and the other was downstairs. When he found that she finally found him, Kurosawa Hikaru was not afraid and stared at her from a high position. This is his home, and he has no reason to avoid it. When Nanami Kaiking saw that Kurosawa Hikaru was actually looking at her from the window in the corridor, her calm and composed eyes finally changed, and she was a little flustered, like the panic of a thief being caught. However, she quickly regained her composure, looked at Kurosawa Hikaru gently, and smiled slightly. So arrogant. Seeing that she didn't run away, and even dared to say hello to him, Kurosawa Hikaru didn't taste the gentleness in her eyes, but only felt it was a provocation. In his eyes, this crazy woman was not as gentle as she looked on the surface. If she was really beautiful, kind, and gentle, she would not have confessed in public again and again, and she didn't know her mistakes, causing him to be isolated by the people around him, and he didn't even have a friend when he returned to his hometown. And from the chance encounter at the door of the Hot Spring Hotel today, he had already seen that this woman was hypocritical. Thinking of this, Kurosawa Hikaru pressed his mobile phone, opened the photo he had just taken, and shook it at her in reverse, smiling provocatively. He did take a picture of this crazy woman peeking into his room in his yard, and her expressionless, cold, and scary look, which was different from her sweetness during the day. If the photo in his hand was seen by Nanami Ayaharu's followers, I don't know how she could explain it. The distance between the first and second floors was very far, and the light was even dimmer. There was reflection from the distance. Nanami Ayaharu didn't see the content in his phone clearly, but when she saw him smiling at her, she smiled even more happily, raised her hand and waved to him gently. Does she think this photo is useless and can explain it? Kurosawa Hikaru saw that she was smiling happily, and he couldn't laugh anymore. Turning the phone over, he looked at the photo again. Because there was no light on in the yard and no lighting, the photo he took with his phone was still quite dark. I have to admit that this photo is not threatening enough. If he recorded it, it would be fatal evidence to record the whole process of Nanami Ayaharu climbing over the wall into his house. While he was studying the photos, Nanami Ayaharu turned around, took 2 steps to help her run, jumped up, grabbed the wall with both hands, and slipped out. She didn't stay outside the wall, but disappeared under the wall. The wall was quite high. Even if a girl walked by the wall upstairs, she couldn't be seen at the height of the second floor, unless she was a little further away from the wall. She came and went in a hurry, without saying a word the whole time, but making some subtle noises caused by her movements. You run so fast. Kurosawa Mitsuru, who was still studying the photos, was too late to stop her, and could only watch her slip away, which was a pity. Summer vacation is not over yet. I will go back to Tokyo the day after tomorrow. Will she follow me? However, he recalled Nanami Ayaharu's every move just now, and in this hot summer, he felt an inexplicable chill. This is a strange woman, not like a normal person at all. Nanami Ayaharu stayed at home honestly at the beginning, probably because she was immersed in the unilateral agreement to wait for his graduation. But now, maybe because he has a girlfriend, this woman's actions are getting weirder and even scary. Because of this, he had a vague feeling that even if he didn't want to provoke or avoid her, this matter might not end so quickly. Brother Guang. Before he could ponder for long, the door of the room not far away was opened. Ichi-nose Yuki, who had already changed her clothes, poked her head out, looked around, and shouted softly. Her voice was very low, probably because she was afraid of being discovered by her parents, so she didn't dare to be too presumptuous. I'm coming. Seeing her waving at him, with a cute look, Kurosawa Guang put the matter aside for the time being and walked over with a smile. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 508. Back in the room, Ichi-nose Yuki started practicing yoga. She wanted to exercise, so Kurosawa Hikaru naturally didn't interrupt her and just sat by the bed playing with her mobile phone. Because of the read function of Line, he naturally chatted with Miki Bayu. While chatting, he also opened the photo album on his mobile phone and looked at the photo. She was still laughing just now. Does she know that with her behavior like this, even if I call the police with evidence, it will be of little use? Thinking of her smile just now, Kurosawa was thoughtful. Although he has not studied the laws of Neon, the criminal standards for breaking into private homes are definitely not as good as those in the beautiful country. Nanami Ayaharu did indeed invade his family's home, but she did not damage, steal, or cause trouble, affecting the owner's life or causing serious consequences. This photo is not enough to solve the problem. As evidence, it does not hold enough weight. Even if it comes in handy, this kind of thing can be big or small. Even if there is a video, it will not be of much use. It is probably to criticize and educate, who knows that she is a girl. If the genders were swapped, the photo would be terrifying and could even lead to the suspect being taken away for investigation. Next time you see her, talk to her clearly. Kurosawa Hikari thought about it and made a decision quickly. He was originally not sure whether Nanami Iharu liked him or enjoyed the feeling of confessing her love to him in public and being cared for by everyone. But what he discovered just now made him judge that Nanami Iharu probably liked him. However, there is something wrong with her thinking, and her approach is too extreme, even pathological, and makes people feel dangerous. Faced with such a person, even if evidence is really found and sent to jail, it will not help the matter and will not remove the root of the problem. The best way to get over it once and for all is to let Nanami Iharu give up on him. Being liked by others is undoubtedly a good thing, but being liked by people who don't like you is troublesome. I hope it can happen. Although he had made up his mind, Kurosawa Hikaru thought for a while and still felt that the success rate was not low. Since getting the system, he has learned how to make girls like him and how to make people dislike him. He does not have much experience. However, it is very easy to make girls hate you. As long as you show your true colors and say some offensive and extreme words, let alone a passerby, even a girl who has a crush on you will be humbled. But the problem is, Nanami Iharu is not an ordinary girl. You know, under normal circumstances, when a girl sees the person she likes, leaves her hometown to go to school in another place, and brings back a beautiful girlfriend, her heart will be broken long ago, and she will feel like the sky has fallen. However, this woman was not like that. Kurosawa Hikaru didn't even know if she was sad. It's really troublesome. After pondering for a long time, he finally made a decision. Kurosawa let out a sigh of relief and felt tired. He has 5 girlfriends, which already makes him extremely busy and overwhelmed. So far, he has not been able to take care of everyone with ease. It can be said that he has more than enough energy but not enough energy. As a result, before this big problem was solved, a crazy woman appeared out of nowhere and pestered him. He really didn't expect that Nanami Iharu would become a problem. Because a normal woman, even if she likes him, will definitely stop when she sees that he has a girlfriend, right? Brother Guang, what's wrong? At this moment, Yuki Ichinos, who was practicing yoga in a t-shirt and shorts, asked with some concern. Brother Guang's outburst just now was not a sigh, but it was similar. Anyway, it was not a reaction to a good mood. Are you worried about that red-haired girl? Suddenly, Yuki Ichinos thought of something and asked again. Originally, both she and Brother Guang were in a good mood when they returned to their hometown this time. As a result, the red-haired girl ran out and messed everything up. Xiao Yuki, don't worry, I'm not interested in her. Seeing that she finally asked, Kurosawa Hikaru seized the opportunity and promised. In fact, on the bus home tonight, he encouraged Xiao Yuki to ask questions just to take this opportunity to express his feelings. He was sure of one thing, he definitely didn't like Nanami Iharu. On this point, whether he asked himself or the system did not trigger the task, there was a clear answer. Brother Guang, actually it doesn't matter if you are interested in her. Yuki Ichinos found his serious assurance and was a little moved, so she whispered. Although she hopes that Brother Guang will stop messing with women, because the fewer people he likes, the more time he can spend with her. However, she was content and did not dare to expect too much. Because she has a feeling that if Brother Guang doesn't bother and only chooses one person, the possibility of choosing her is not high. Both Miss Ninomiya and Miss Shifenjin are much better than her. It was precisely because she had figured this out that she was a lot more optimistic about Brother Guang's decision, even though she still cared about it. I'm really not interested in her. Trust me, I won't find a sixth one. Seeing her say this, Kurosawa Hikaru didn't know whether she was speaking ironically or telling the truth, but he just said firmly. 5 girlfriends are already enough, so many that he can't hold a bowl of water evenly. If there are more people, it will be okay. What's more, he really isn't interested in Nanami Ayaharu. Putting aside her appearance, just talking about the beauty of her soul, compared with his girlfriend, the gap is as big as a world. Not looking for the sixth one? In other words, there are 5 now. Ichinosuke trusted him very much. Seeing that he said this, she naturally believed him, but she soon noticed the more important point in his words. Cough. Seeing that she had reacted, Kurosawa paused for 2 seconds and coughed slightly in embarrassment. Did player Mickey succeed? Seeing his reaction as if he had let something slip, Ichinosuke secretly thought in her heart. Miss Ninomiya, Miss Shifun, Miss Igarashi, aren't they 4? Who is the 5th? However, Ichinosuke was not sure who the 5th person was, so he asked in order to find out the answer. Remember the girl I made cry? Facing her question, Kurosawa paused and asked. In fact, he just mentioned the 6th one and took the opportunity to say it. Because of Bayou's matter, sooner or later I have to tell everyone that it's better to choose a day than to hit it. Putting it off forever is not an option. It just so happened that Ichinosuke was in the Izu Peninsula, and they had to get along at least until the day after tomorrow before they separated. 2 nights gave him a lot of time and energy to compensate Yuki. And although the 5th girlfriend is bad news, the good news is that he will not find a 6th girlfriend. Player Mickey. Hearing this prompt, Ichinosuke's heart moved. With such clues, he instantly locked the candidate. Kurosawa Hikaru nodded heavily, wanting to see how she would react so that he could deal with it and coax her. Is it really her? Ichinosuke received his affirmation and nodded thoughtfully. Did you think she would be the 5th one? Kurosawa Hikaru was not surprised at all when he saw her reaction, but was a little surprised. She is so beautiful, and Brother Guang, you have always cared about her and looked very guilty after making her cry before. I just thought that you and her should still have contact. Ichinosuke slightly chinned her head, which was indeed not surprising. Even if Mickey Bayu hadn't looked for her, she felt that it would happen sooner or later. Although he doesn't want to admit it, Brother Guang has a shortcoming, and that is his playfulness. To be fair, if she were Brother Guang, she would already have a lot of experience anyway. How could she let go of a girl as beautiful as Mickey? Xiao Yuki, don't be angry. I can promise you that I will never find a 6th one. Seeing her accustomed look, Kurosawa Hikaru felt guilty. He stood up and walked to her side, closing the distance. In fact, whether Xiao Yuki is crying or making trouble, he thinks it is normal, but she is neither angry nor sad, which makes people feel scared. Because your girlfriend doesn't like or dislike what you do, which means she doesn't care and is completely disappointed. Brother Guang, I'm not angry. Yuki Ichinos, who was doing the splits, couldn't laugh or cry when she saw his so angry look. This is not a big deal, and she has met player Mickey and has already foreseen this result, so there is no reason to be angry. I promise it won't happen again. Don't be angry with me. However, seeing that she was not angry, Kurosawa became more panicked and moved his face forward. When a girl says she is not angry, she is actually angry. Because girls are such creatures, they are always inconsistent and unreasonable. If girls are reasonable, then their anger will be even more justified. Brother Guang, I'm really not angry. Seeing that he suspected that she was angry, Ichinosuke said softly without showing it. I apologize to you, I'm sorry. However, Kurosawa Hikaru saw that she was not having an attack, but was looking gentle. He felt that she was extremely disappointed, that she no longer cared about him, and that she was even more anxious. Because at the beginning, Xiaoyuki thought that she would be with him forever, and made a promise to never leave him. As a result, even if he had 3 boats, there was a 4th one, and now there is a 5th one. Oh, I'm really not angry. Why don't you believe me? Ichinosuke saw that he didn't believe in himself, and he suddenly became a little annoyed. Originally, when she met that inexplicable woman this afternoon and saw everyone blaming Brother Guang, she felt suffocated and depressed. However, Brother Guang was still like this, which was really irritating. It's not that I don't believe you, it's just that you're not angry. I always feel like you don't care about me anymore. Why don't you hit me or pinch me? Seeing the angry look on her face, Kurosawa said immediately. Rather than accept Xiaoyuki calmly, he would rather Xiaoyuki was angry and vented, and then he would try to coax her out, so that he would feel relieved. Ah! Seeing him making such an outrageous request, Ichinosuke simply grabbed his arm, opened his mouth suddenly and bit it. However, although she bit him, she was reluctant to use force, not wanting to cause him pain. Are you really not angry? Seeing that she was reluctant to bite him hard, Kurosawa Hikaru felt very sorry. I can actually understand why you are with Miki. I quite like her, and she is really beautiful. Ichinosuke spat out his arm and nodded slightly. What does this have to do with being pretty? Kurosawa Hikaru didn't quite understand what she was thinking. Could it be that Xiaoyuki thinks that he is very carefree and loves a beautiful woman when he sees one? To be honest, he believed that this was definitely not the case, because if he really fell in love with someone he saw, Miss Sayaka would never be able to escape his grasp. Of course it does matter. She is beautiful and looks more eye-catching. Brother Guang, you guys are not the only ones who like beauties, us girls also like them. Seeing the strange look in his eyes, Ichinosuke knew that he had misunderstood, so she gave him a blank look while explaining naturally. Just like boys actually like to look at handsome guys. Kurosawa Hikaru was thoughtful after hearing this explanation. This like is not that kind of like, but the love of beauty. Everyone has it. Everyone longs for beauty and wants to be closer to beauty. For example, hero movies and tough guy movies. Why so many boys like them is a similar concept. Probably. When Ichinosuke heard this example, she was not sure for a moment and was a little confused. Her head didn't spin very fast, at least not as fast as his. When the gender was changed, she didn't know if that was the case. Brother Guang, I'm really not angry if you are with Miki, but if you are with that red-haired girl, I will definitely be angry. Immediately, Ichinosuke brought the topic back to the topic and stopped thinking about such complicated issues. Oh. Kurosawa Hikaru could tell from her expression and tone that she was really angry and disgusted. In fact, this was rare, because this was the first time he had seen Yuki-chan angry. After all, this girl has a very well-behaved personality, and she has the kind of temperament that will hide and cry secretly when she is wronged. Kurosawa Hikaru noticed how angry she really was, and finally confirmed that she was really not angry about the fact that her 5th girlfriend was Miki Shiraha. Ichinosuke was really angry when he mentioned the red-haired girl, and couldn't help but say what was in his heart. Brother Guang, I will indeed be jealous if you are with other girls. But when I think about you and Miss Ninomiya, Miss Miki, Miss Shifenjin, and Miss Igarashi, all of them are extremely beautiful in my opinion. Charming beauties holding hands, kissing, and hugging are actually not that exclusive. But if you are with that red-haired girl, holding hands with her, kissing and hugging her, I will be very repelled, so I will be angry. It is actually very difficult to express your inner thoughts with words. She didn't know how to organize the words, so she could only explain as much as possible. Is this so? Hearing her explanation, Kurosawa Hikaru was thoughtful. In other words, you can understand that I like a girl who you think is beautiful, but you can't understand if I like a girl who is far inferior to you. Soon, Kurosawa Hikaru came up with a conclusion and asked for confirmation. The reason why Xiaoyuki has no angry mental activity, if he didn't interpret it wrongly, is similar to the fact that your girlfriend found out that you cheated on her. It doesn't matter that this vixen is prettier than her. You are making trouble by finding someone uglier than me. Which kind? Probably. Hearing this statement, Ichino's Yuki thought about it seriously and nodded. She was jealous and repulsed that Brother Guang was with a super beautiful girl, but she wasn't particularly disgusted and could understand Brother Guang's choice. But if Brother Guang is with a bad girl, her feelings are not as simple as jealousy and rejection, but disgust and incomprehensible. Brother Guang, are you really not interested in her? Putting this matter aside, Ichino's Yuki couldn't help but ask. Real? Kurosawa nodded. That's good. Although Brother Guang's credibility was not high and he always lied to her, she believed him anyway. Although I am not interested in her, she is very interested in me. I must find a way to make her give up. Kurosawa Hikaru nodded slightly and expressed his plan. We will return to Tokyo in 2 days. We won't be able to see her by then. There is no need to do anything to make her give up. When Yuki Ichinos learned about this plan, he didn't quite understand it. Although the distance between Izu Peninsula and Tokyo is not particularly far, they are still separated by cities. I don't want to get involved with her, but if we don't find a way to make her give up, we may still see her even if we return to Tokyo. Kurosawa Hikaru naturally knew about the separation between cities, but he sighed. Why? Yuki Ichinos didn't understand. In response, Kurosawa Hikaru didn't say anything. He just took out his mobile phone, opened the first photo in the album, and pointed it at her. Seeing this action, Ichino's Yuki straightened up, no longer lying on the ground in the splits, looking at the photo. Is this a picture of her? Ichino's Yuki was a little surprised when he found that there was a photo of that girl in his mobile phone. Didn't you change clothes just now? I ran into the corridor. Kurosawa Hikaru nodded slightly and explained what just happened. She actually broke into your house. After hearing his explanation, Ichino's Yuki's eyes widened and she was frightened. This is a crazy woman. If we do nothing and ignore her, she will most likely follow us to Tokyo now or during the summer vacation. Kurosawa Hikaru nodded slightly and confirmed. Husband and wife are of the same mind, and their power breaks through metal. It would be difficult for him to make Nanami Ayaka give up by himself, so it would be better to add the power of Yukikyo. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 509. Because Xiaoyuki was scared, she was very clingy tonight. She didn't even dare to take a bath alone, so the two of them took a bath together. After taking a shower, they were lying on the bed. The two of them were still chatting, discussing how to deal with Nanami Iharu. But not long after, Kurosawa Hikari couldn't bear it anymore as he was nestled in her arms. The next morning, after having breakfast together, Kurosawa Hikaru took Ichino's Yuki out. At 8:20 in the morning, the summer sun is already hanging in the sky, but the morning air is very fresh. It's just that they didn't go out for fun today. Yuki Ichinos is wearing a white sun protection suit, waist-bearing suspenders, and low-waisted denim shorts. She looks very fashionable. As JK, she looks beautiful and cute, and her pink lips look like they smell like strawberry. Brother Guang, how are we going to find her? Should we go to her house? Ichino's Yuki looked around warily and asked. Now she finally knows how terrifying that Nanami Ayaharu is. Hiding in the alley next to the convenience store the night before was nothing, but climbing over the wall and walking into Brother Guang's house last night was the behavior of a perverted stalker. Faced with such people, Calling the police alone is indeed not enough to solve the problem. As for beating people, let alone the fact that we are a society governed by law. If you are caught beating a girl, it will be a negative event with a great impact. We won't go to her house for now. We don't have to do anything. She will find her by herself. Kurosawa Hikaru didn't want to go to her at all, he had his own plans. The Izu Peninsula is too big, and he is not a stalker, so how would he know the movements of Nanami Ayaharu? What if she doesn't come? You found her last night. She might hide. Yuki Ichinos felt that this was too passive and not a good idea. Relax, we have one day, don't worry, let's see what she does first. Kurosawa Hikaru naturally knew that he had to take the initiative in doing things, but he was not worried. Then what do we do now? Hearing his comfort, Ichinos Yuki realized that she was too nervous. She nodded slightly and took a few deep breaths to force herself to calm down. Go shopping. Buy what? Anti-climbing thorns and anti-theft equipment. In view of the lesson learned last night, Kurosawa Hikaru believed that the security at home was too low and must be strengthened. Most homes in Neon don't pay much attention to anti-theft and do not install anti-theft doors. Only girls who live alone with high safety awareness will install infrared alarm equipment, window alarm equipment, and various monitoring systems. After all, girls who live alone are relatively vulnerable to men in most situations. In short, Neon's home safety is very low, especially in the countryside. This is attributed to the fact that Neon is a country with a credit system. The cost of crime is very high. Stealing a few dollars will result in a prison sentence. Everything is recorded in the credit card. It will be affected if you want to work or open a store in the future, so the crime rate has effectively dropped. Oh. If Ichinos Yuki had some enlightenment, he would know the reason without even thinking about it. In fact, many problems can be solved quickly as long as there is no procrastination and targeted actions. Kurosawa found a store with related equipment, bought a lot of it, and asked a master to come and install it. It was done in one morning. Installing these things in your home will naturally not escape the eyes and ears of your parents. However, Kurosawa Hikaru has been smart, capable, mature, and sensible since he was a child. If he decides to do anything, his parents will basically fully support him. Why does Agwang install these things? Maybe it's for Yuki's safety. Kurosawa's parents found it strange at first. Looking at the Izu Peninsula, they probably couldn't find another single-family house with anti-climbing installations, but they soon figured it out. Anti-climbing spikes and iron fences are usually installed in luxury villas. After having lunch at home, Kurosawa Hikaru took little Yuki out again. At around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Kurosawa Hikaru came to a relatively quiet cafe. The next step is to wait for her to deliver it to your door. Kurosawa Hikaru casually ordered a glass of iced Americano, sat down in the store, and watched what happened. Wow, it's so painful. While waiting, Ichinos Yuki took a sip of coffee and couldn't help but stick out her tongue. I asked you to order cappuccino but you didn't. Seeing her trying to order an American iced drink on her own, and not getting used to it at all, Kurosawa Hikaru was immediately amused by her embarrassment. Neon people have an inexplicable understanding of drinking coffee. Drinking bitter coffee is like an adult. Yuki Ichinos, who was already suffering, saw that he was still laughing at her, twisting her body and staring at him, making a sound of disobedience and protesting very much. Ha ha ha. After being glared at by her, Kurosawa Hikaru felt even more amused, feeling that her breasts were fierce. Although girls all like to glare at people, Xiao Yuki is too young after all. Rolling her eyes and glaring at people are not harmful at all. Okay, let's add some sugar and milk. After Kurosawa laughed with her, he also took the sugar packets and milk boxes on the table and gave them to her. Don't add so much, I want to control the sugar. Yuki Ichino saw what he was doing and quickly stopped him. She imitated Kurosawa's order of iced Americano, but she didn't actually think that drinking bitter coffee would make her an adult, because she knew she was already an adult. Why control sugar? The semi-finals of the beauty contest will start on Friday. Ms. Igarashi asked me to prepare. The preparation for models is to keep in good shape and healthy. It starts on Friday, so soon. Kurosawa Hikaru was a little surprised when he heard this. Calculating the time, this Friday is September 9th. In fact, the auditions for the National Beauty Contest have already started. It's all thanks to Ms. Igarashi's connections that I was able to enter the semi-finals directly. When is the final? October 10. Is there still a month before I can win the championship? Brother Guang, we haven't competed yet, but you talk as if I will definitely win the championship. Ichino's Yuki was embarrassed when she heard his tone. You are so beautiful, there is no suspense at all when you participate in the competition. Kurosawa Hikaru was indeed full of confidence in her and said with certainty. You know, Yuki is beautiful and cute, with white and soft skin. The key is that she has a pair of watery, beautiful eyes that seem to be able to speak, and she is particularly stunning when she smiles. Her looks are prettier than many famous actresses. If she participates in this kind of competition, she will definitely win unless some super beautiful girl who appears once in 8,000 years suddenly appears. I hope so. Yuki Ichino's felt his approving gaze and felt encouraged, but she still didn't dare to say it too absolutely. Because as far as she knows, there are 3 girls prettier than her. They are Miki when she was a figure skater, Shifunji Yuan Mirai of the Neon Budokan, and Ninomiya Chizuru in the Adelina form at the Tokyo Bunkakaikan. If it were normal, she would not be much inferior to them, but they all had their own beautiful moments. After sitting in the cafe for more than an hour, because he didn't wait for Nanami Kaiking, Kurosawa Hikaru took Yuki to stroll on the street. Yesterday, we went straight to the hot spring hotel and didn't have a good time. Today is a chance. Japanese people have a unique understanding of storefront decoration, and different regions have different views. In short, there are always some store signs and storefronts that you can't understand. Brother Guang, what kind of store is that? Go inside and take a look. Kurosawa Guang had never been to the Izu Peninsula before, and was confused when she asked him. But fortunately, it was right in front of him, and he would know after going into the store. In fact, as long as the girlfriend is not the type who runs into the store to look at clothes, looks and tries for a long time, but ends up not buying, it is fun to go shopping with 2 people. In the afternoon, except for not eating anything, they looked at all kinds of stores and bought some things. They played until the evening, and then they got on the bus to go home. Brother Guang, I didn't meet her, what should I do? Ichino's Yuki looked around the passengers in the car, a little confused. Although she had a lot of fun today, she felt uneasy because something was not resolved. It's a good thing that she doesn't come to us. Kurosawa Guang saw that she was a little anxious and comforted her. Why? If she comes to us during the day, she will definitely be like yesterday, with a bunch of followers around her. If she really comes, it will be difficult to deal with her. But it's not easy to deal with her if she disappears. Didn't you say that if we leave her alone, she might follow us back to Tokyo because there is still time during the summer vacation? You can escape the monk but not the temple. She is a human, not a ghost, and she can't disappear. What you mean is... Ichino's Yuki heard this and widened her eyes, and suddenly thought of a possibility. After dinner, we will go to her house as a guest. Seeing that she guessed it, Kurosawa Hikari smiled. So this is what Brother Hikari is planning. Ichino's Yuki was a little surprised. Because she found that Brother Hikari's method, in a simple and easy to understand explanation, is to find the parents. If you go to her house during the day, her parents may not be at home. After dinner, They should be at home. Kurosawa Hikari nodded slightly and added. He will go back to Tokyo tomorrow and doesn't have that much time to waste with Nanami Ayaharu. He discussed many countermeasures with Xiaoyuji, all of which were what to say and what to do if they met during the day. He knew that it was passive to do nothing and wait for Nanami Kaiking to come to him, so he thought of a way to turn passivity into initiative. Not long after, they returned home, and Kurosawa Yayoi had already prepared dinner. Because his son only stayed at home for a few days and brought his girlfriend back, they also took a few days off and did not go to the stall for the time being. It might affect the business, but in this world, making money is not the most important thing, the key is to be happy. After dinner, Kurosawa Mitsuru put the things he bought from shopping back in the room and set off with Xiaoyuji. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 510. At night, after dinner, Nanami Ayaharu sat at the desk and played with her phone. There was a computer in front of her, and on the screen was a surveillance screen, facing the Kurosawa family. This was the surveillance camera of the neighbor opposite the Kurosawa family, and people passing by could be seen. Anti-climbing spikes? What's the use of this? Nanami Ayaharu looked up at the anti-climbing spikes on the wall of the house opposite in the surveillance screen, and didn't care at all. Because she was discovered last night, she had no intention of climbing over the wall. In fact, it's not that no one knew that she looked up at the window outside the wall in the backyard of the Kurosawa family. It's just that when Kurosawa Hikaru went to Tokyo to attend university and was not at home, she would occasionally go to see it. Even if others saw it, they all knew that she liked Kurosawa Hikaru, and they just thought she was thinking of him, and didn't say much. This thieving cat. Just then, Nanami Ayaharu noticed that the picture had changed. Seeing Kurosawa Hikaru and Ichino's Yuki walking out of the house hand in hand, her face couldn't help but sink. She had been chasing after Kurosawa Hikaru for so many years since she was a child, and she had long regarded Kurosawa Hikaru as a forbidden fruit, and would not allow others to think about him. In her opinion, Kurosawa would be moved by her deep affection and long-lasting love sooner or later, but before she could wait for that day, this thieving cat ran out. In fact, the appearance of Ichino's Yuki was a big blow to her. You know, even if Kurosawa Hikaru is not interested in campus romance, it is not known to everyone in the Izu Peninsula, but it is still well known among his peers. Obviously, Kurosawa went to Tokyo to attend university, and he had a girlfriend even though he had not graduated yet. She regretted why she didn't study hard at the beginning, not to mention getting into the University of Tokyo, at least getting into a university in Tokyo, closer to Kurosawa. However, she didn't give up so easily. After all, girlfriends would break up, and even if they were married, they could get divorced, so she still had a chance. Where are you going? Immediately, Nanami Kaiking saw Kurosawa Hikaru walking to the right and stood up. On the back wall of the computer desk, there is a map, which is a detailed map of the Izu Peninsula. Nanami's house is not far from Kurosawa's house, only a few hundred meters away. That's right, as long as she knows which direction Kurosawa is going, she can easily guess the location through the map and follow him. Let's see first, he may pass by my house in this direction. Nanami Kaiking looked carefully for a while and guessed a few locations, but did not act in a hurry. Instead, she walked to the window and closed the curtains. She only left a small gap to see outside, and looked back at the computer from time to time to prevent Kurosawa from suddenly turning back and changing directions. Here they are going to pass by my house. After waiting for a while, Nanami Kaiking saw two figures walking slowly on the street. This discovery made her turn around and walk to the door to turn off the lights, and then pull the curtains to make the gap smaller. In the dark, with the curtains covering, the secrecy is extremely high, and such peeping is impossible to be discovered. Agwang is so handsome. He went to Tokyo to attend university for more than a year and became more handsome. Is it because he learned archery? He has a beautiful smile. On the second floor, Nanami Ayaharu watched Kurosawa Gwang getting closer and closer, clearer and clearer, and her eyes became more obsessed. This woman is damned. Agwang is so handsome, it seems that she can't break up so easily. Can I only find a way to make Agwang break up? After the excitement, Nanami Ayaharu felt extremely irritated when she thought that Kurosawa was smiling at his blonde girlfriend. Just when she was thinking about it, Nanami Ayaharu's thoughts suddenly paused for a beat. Why did they stop at my door? A huge question mark appeared in Nanami Ayaharu's heart. You know, Kurosawa Gwang has never come to her house since he was a child, but she has visited Kurosawa's house dozens of times with her parents. Because she performed well, Uncle Kurosawa and Aunt Kurosawa liked her very much. Let's not talk about such a past. What shocked her was that Kurosawa Gwang went out tonight and came to her house. Ding dong. At this moment, Kurosawa Hikaru pressed the doorbell, and the crisp bell rang throughout the house. The action of pressing the doorbell seemed to confirm the fact that he was coming to her house, which made Nanami Ayaharu completely panic. This was a development she had never expected. Before she could figure out what was going on, Nanami Ayaharu suddenly met a pair of beautiful green eyes. Shocked by this, Nanami Ayaharu subconsciously took a step back. She found me? How is this possible? Nanami Ayaharu was very surprised and felt it was unbelievable. In order to create various coincidental encounters with Kurosawa Hikaru, she specifically searched the internet for many tracking and concealment techniques. Even more, she also played stealth games, read comics, novels, and watched TV dramas. Years of accumulation made her familiar with various hiding places and concealed places. Impossible. Thinking over it, Nanami Ayaharu took a step forward in disbelief. But when she came to the bed again and looked at the door through the gap in the curtains, she saw two people looking up at her. As their eyes met, she found that Kurosawa Hikaru and Ichinose Yuki suddenly smiled, as if they had encountered something happy. What do they want to do? Seeing their smiles, Nanami Ayaharu felt an inexplicable feeling of horror. She was startled and took a few steps back. For some reason, she always felt that something was wrong. Still at home. At the same time, Kurosawa Hikaru at the door of Nanami's house looked up and saw the slightly swinging curtains, and he was indeed smiling. Although the window on the second floor looked like it was completely covered by curtains, Xiaoyuki was too sensitive to other people's sights and felt it immediately. It would be nice if this woman was at home, but he was afraid that Nanami Ayaharu would slip out. Kurosawa. After a while, the door to the courtyard was opened, and a beautiful mature woman with red hair came out. She was surprised to see that the person who rang the doorbell was Hikaru Kurosawa. Aunt Nanami, long time no see. Seeing her appearance, Kurosawa Hikaru also smiled and said hello. Long time no see, why are you here? Nanami's mother glanced at the beautiful blonde girlfriend next to him, a little surprised. The fact that Kurosawa Hikaru returned to his hometown with a super beautiful blonde girlfriend has long been spread throughout the house, and she naturally knew about it. I want to talk to Nanami-san about something. Is she at home? Kurosawa Hikaru was also carrying a fruit basket in his right hand, which he bought on the way here. I'm at home, please come in. When Nanami's mother saw him coming to visit and bringing gifts so politely, she smiled and walked over to open the small iron fence of the courtyard gate. Excuse me. Kurosawa Hikaru walked into the courtyard politely. After a while chatting, they walked into the home. In the living room, Nanami's father is a middle-aged and stout man with a serious look and a very old-fashioned and stern look. He is sitting in front of the sofa playing with his mobile phone and drinking tea. Uncle Nanami, good evening. It's Kurosawa, good evening. Kurosawa, please sit down for a while. I'll call Ai Ching to come down. Nanami's mother took them to the living room and turned around to walk away. No need to shout down, they are all young people, let them go upstairs and chat in the room. Before she could walk out, Nanami's father spoke. That's fine. Nanami's mother thought about it and thought it made sense. Children are children and cannot be let go in front of their parents. Immediately, Kurosawa Hikaru was led upstairs to the door with a knock on door sign. Ayaharu, Kurosawa is here to see you. Nanami's mother knocked on the door and said. There was no response and silence in the room. Seeing this, Nanami's mother knocked on the door again and repeated it. Strange, is this child asleep? Still getting no response, Nanami's mother looked apologetic. Maybe if you think about it normally, knocking on the door and getting no answer is just like this, but Kurosawa Hikaru doesn't think so. Because Nanami Iharu was peeking at him from the window just now, how could she fall asleep in such a short time? She was obviously pretending to be dead and silent, not daring to see him. Is Nanami-san asleep? In that case, Aunt Nanami, I will give you the photo I took of her last night. In front of his mother, Kurosawa didn't open the door violently, he just said. Photo. Nanami's mother was a little confused. With technology so advanced these days, do we still need to give photos in person? At this moment, there was the sound of footsteps in the room. Wow, Kurosawa-san, why are you here? The locked door was opened, Nanami Iharu stood at the door, smiling slightly, very surprised. Her clothes are casual dresses because she wants to go out at any time and does not wear pajamas or revealing clothes. Yesterday you came to see me, today it's my turn to come to you. Seeing her pretended surprised reaction, Kurosawa raised the corner of his mouth. In fact, he hadn't been sure of the effect of the photo before, but Nanami Ayaharu opened the door without hesitation, allowing him to fully see the effect. The photos he took last night are not enough to be used as evidence of a crime, but the effect of suing the parents is very good. Come on in. Nanami Iharu nodded and immediately called them into the room. You guys sit down for a while and I'll bring you tea and snacks. Seeing her daughter's happy look, Nanami's mother breathed a sigh of relief and smiled. In fact, she was originally worried that her daughter would be sad when she saw Kurosawa Hikari visiting with his girlfriend. After all, the neighbors knew that her daughter liked Kurosawa Hikaru, so how could a parent not know that? Mom, we just had dinner, so there is no need for snacks and tea. Nanami Ayaharu shook her head and said. Okay, you guys can talk slowly. Nanami's mother nodded slightly, knowing that she meant not to disturb her, so she turned around and left. Immediately, Kurosawa Hikaru and Ichinose Yuki were invited into the room and the door was closed. 2 more updates are coming, and I also recommend the new book of Lemon Tea, the master of Japanese light novels, Foot Control. People in Tokyo, deeply in love prison. Tokyo's most affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 511. Upon entering the room, Kurosawa Hikaru smelled a light fragrance. After all, it was a girl's boudoir. Immediately, he subconsciously looked at the environment. The walls are covered with photos. They were all photos of him, including side faces, front faces, and many photos of him and Nanami Iharu. With just one glance, Kurosawa Hikaru could tell that it was a group photo cut out of the class photos taken every year from kindergarten until the senior year of high school. Every time a group photo was taken, Nanami Iharu stood firmly by his side. In addition, there are several pillows on the bed with a thin quilt, all made of his photos. The pillow industry is very developed. As long as you prepare photos for the merchants, they can make them for you. Judging from the layout of this room alone, it is obvious how crazy Nanami Ayaharu is, like a crazy groupie. He also saw a map on the wall behind the computer. Because it was marked with various words, he could tell that it was a map made with his home as the center point. Really? Seeing this scene, the corners of Kurosawa Hikaru's mouth raised a shallow arc. In the past, he had never been sure whether Nanami Iharu really liked him or pretended to like him. Because this woman has been defeated and defeated again and again, and it seems that she will never give up or be hurt. Every time she confesses her love and is rejected, she will be treated as a group favorite and protected. Every time he refused, everyone would accuse him of being straight, stupid, and blind. She was clearly hurting him and being rejected by him, but she seemed to be unaware of it. It was really hard to believe that she liked him. But now, he can completely confirm that Nanami Iharu likes him, but the way she expresses her love for people is hard to accept. Yuki Ichino's was also sizing it up, but she was startled. She thinks she likes Brother Guang very much, but she's not crazy to this extent. At most, she has Brother Guang's photos in her phone and uses them as wallpapers and screensavers. Ah, this is Kurosawa-san's first time as a guest at my house. Please sit down. Perhaps her privacy was being seen, but Nanami Iharu was not shy. Instead, she greeted the two of them, brought over the small table placed by the wall, and placed it in an open space to sit down. However, even though she acted calm, her smile was a bit forced, not as calm as last night. Because this was her room, she had no way to retreat and could not move forward or retreat freely. Nanami-san, I came to you this time because I want to make things clear to you. Kurosawa Hikaru was not polite. He came to the small table and sat down easily, then got straight to the point and went straight to the topic. Why is it so important that you need to come to my house to tell me face to face? Ah, I forgot, you don't have my contact information. Nanami Iharu was a little confused, then she was surprised and sighed. Although they had known each other for more than 10 years, she and Kurosawa Hikaru didn't even have a line friend. There are no outsiders here, so don't be miserable. You know who has been worse off these years than anyone else. However, when Kurosawa Hikaru saw her reaction, he was unmoved and said coldly. If the damage caused by words and cold violence could be realized, he would already be riddled with wounds. Nanami Iharu was not qualified to act like a victim and aggrieved in front of him, because she was the perpetrator. I'm not trying to be miserable, I'm just telling the truth. I really don't have your contact information. Nanami Iharu was unmoved by this cold remark and just lowered her head, looking a little aggrieved. Let me introduce to you. This is my girlfriend, Yuki Ichino's, who is a student at Kiizumi Private High School in Tokyo. Seeing that she was still acting now, Kurosawa Hikaru was too lazy to talk nonsense to her, so he introduced her with a wave of his right hand. Chinquan Private High School? Is she a high school student? Nanami Iharu, who originally wanted to show weakness and get away with it, was stunned when she heard this, and then suddenly stood up with a slap on the table, and looked at Yuki Ichino sitting next to Kurosawa Hikaru with big eyes. At this moment, she couldn't hold herself any longer, her expression was shocked, and she just felt unbelievable. Didn't you say that you are not interested in high school students? Do you think that love during student years is just the beginning of love and impulsive desire, and that love must be prerequisite for marriage? Why are you dating JK? After coming back to her senses, Nanami Ayaka felt betrayed by him, and asked angrily and sadly. She knew that Kurosawa had a girlfriend but didn't care because she knew that her girlfriend was just a girlfriend and not married yet. She still had a chance. If she persisted, she would always see rainbows. But if this blonde girlfriend, Yuki Ichino's, was JK, the situation would be completely different. I did think so before, but after meeting her, my mind changed. Kurosawa Hikaru was not surprised when he saw her looking like a vicious wolf showing its fangs. He just glanced at Xiaoyuki beside him and chuckled. I don't listen, you lie. You lie. Nanami Iharu said with hysterical anger as if she had been stepped on. Nanami-san, let me tell you this. I thought I was not interested in junior high school students and high school students, but now I find that I was wrong. I am simply not interested in you. The crazier she became, the more disgusted Kurosawa Hikaru looked at her and said in a deep voice. After confirming that she liked him, his suspicion was verified, and he finally understood why she didn't give up. This is because of his philosophy. When dealing with girls, he will subconsciously take care of and be humble. He doesn't know how to hit women, and he doesn't like hurting girls, so when he refuses to confess, he never cuts it off completely and eliminates the root cause. However, the tenderness he subconsciously reserved caused trouble, making Nanami Iharu always feel that she still had a chance. As expected, her psychological activities of repeated defeats should be as follows. It's not that Kurosawa doesn't like me, he also rejected many girls' confessions. He just wants to learn and become better, and feels that love during his student years is meaningless and just an impulsive desire. I will prove that I really like you, no one likes you more than me. She is so hysterical now because he personally tore this hope to pieces. Ah! With the hope in her heart shattered, Nanami Iharu covered her ears with her hands and let out a scream that was extremely harsh and made her eardrums hurt. However, after screaming frantically, Nanami Iharu suddenly thought of a possibility, as if grasping a life-saving straw. I understand, she is a rental girlfriend, right? Because I always bring people to confess to you, and I want to use everyone's power to convince you, which indirectly causes harm to you, so you want to punish me. As she spoke, she also walked around the small table, trying to grab his arm. It turns out that you know that you are hurting me by confessing your love in public. I thought you didn't know. Kurosawa Hikaru was not soft-hearted at all. He flicked his arm and shook off her grasp. Agwang, you are lying to me, right? Nanami Ayaka was unwilling to accept the truth, so he threw her arm away and grabbed her again. Recognize the reality, I really don't like you, and I don't have time to lie to you. Kurosawa Hikaru realized that she just refused to give up, and immediately became impatient. He also rented a girlfriend. Although Neon did have this career, he had never been exposed to it. I was wrong. I really know that I was wrong. I won't take everyone to confess to you in the future. Agwang, I really like you, forgive me, okay? As long as you forgive me, no matter what you want me to do, it will be alright. Nanami Iharu cried immediately when she heard him say he didn't like her. She really regretted it. In order to be with Kurosawa Hikaru, she used many methods. Confessing her love in public and telling everyone that she likes Hikaru Kurosawa is just one of the methods. She did a lot to exclude other love rivals. As long as I forgive you, I can do anything. Kurosawa Hikari cried when he saw her. The noise became louder and louder, and he had a headache. When he heard this, his heart moved and the conversation changed. Anything is fine. Seeing the change in his tone, Nanami Iharu nodded frantically as if grasping a life-saving straw. Don't appear in front of me in the future. From now on, if we are on separate sides, I will forgive you. Following her confirmation, Kurosawa Hikaru expressed her expectations. If we really want to say that he and Nanami Iharu have any deep hatred, it really can't be considered. Although he had suffered unexplained disasters due to her public confession in the past, for him, it was actually not bad. Perhaps everyone thought he was unkind and did not understand good people, so they isolated him, but from a consequentialist perspective, he was admitted to Tokyo University. If he failed to get into Dongda University because of her drag, the hatred would be irreconcilable. How about that? Nanami Iharu thought she had hope, but she didn't expect her expectations to be so high. She just felt like the sky had fallen, and her soul seemed to have withdrawn from her body and collapsed on the ground. This rejection was completely different from before. Whether you are not interested in her, don't like her, or don't want to appear in front of her, it is a complete rejection with no room for redemption. I hope you can keep your word. When Kurosawa Hikaru saw her crying, he showed no mercy or soft-heartedness. He turned around and left without saying a word. This was at Nanami Iharu's home. Her screaming, angry questioning, and now crying would be really difficult if her parents heard her. But there is no other way. In order to prevent this crazy woman from continuing to pester her, she must give up completely. Agwang, don't leave. Change your position. I can definitely do it. Seeing that he was about to leave, Nanami Iharu immediately crawled over and wanted to hug his legs. Just when she was about to hug her leg, a hand suddenly stretched out. Miss Nanami, please pay attention, he is my boyfriend. This was when Ichino's Yuki took action, grabbing her wrist forcefully, stopping her movement, and finally spoke. Tokyo's most affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 512. It's you stole my Agwang. If you hadn't changed Agwang's mind, Agwang would have fallen in love with me sooner or later. Nanami Iharu came back to her senses and noticed her, and immediately expressed her anger. Will I like you sooner or later? Take a good look in the mirror. You are not qualified enough just like you are. Hearing these words, Ichino's Yuki only found it funny. He threw her hand away and looked at her condescendingly. What did you say? I'm famous as a beauty in the Izu Peninsula. Nanami Iharu felt her disdain and was very angry. That's the Izu Peninsula. If it were in Tokyo, it would be like that. You are only a little prettier than me, are you awesome? Just a little bit? Beauty is not only about the appearance, but also about the inner beauty, the beauty of the soul, in many aspects. You should be glad that the person you met is me. If you meet for Ichino's Yuki felt that she was lucky to have met her. If she had faced the future of Shifenjin, she would have been in despair. If Brother Guang doesn't bother, Sifenjai Yuan will be no less than the ultimate devil as a love rival in the future. In comparison, Ninomiya Chizuru's sense of oppression is not that strong. After all, she has an obvious shortcoming, that is, she is too old and not as young as her. But the future of Sifenjai Yuan is different. She has a prosperous beauty, an outstanding family, and a transcendent temperament. She raises her hands and feet, talks and laughs happily, and between every frown and smile, she is full of the peerless elegance of a wealthy lady. She is so perfect that there is no way to find it. Shortcoming. Xiao Yuki, stop talking to her, it's time to go. Before she could finish her words, Kurosawa Hikaru shouted to stop. Coming. Ichino's Yuki was very obedient. Although she felt pity, she still followed him obediently. When he caught up, Kurosawa opened the door. There was no one outside the door, but as he went down the stairs, his hearing was very keen, and he noticed the movement at the top of the stairs on the first floor. Obviously, the movement just now was too loud, and it was impossible for Nanami Iharu's parents not to notice it. Aunt Nanami, Uncle Nanami, I'm sorry to bother you. Arriving on the first floor, Kurosawa Hikaru passed by the door of the living room and bowed his head slightly to apologize to the elders. Your parents warmly welcome you into their home, but you make their daughter cry. This behavior is really disgraceful. Yuki Ichino's, who was following him, felt a little guilty because he made some taunts at the end and bullied his daughter. After bowing and lowering his head, he hurried past. After leaving Nanami's house, they embarked on the road home. Will she give up? Along the way, Ichino's Yuki couldn't help but look back at the house. The plan couldn't keep up with the changes. Although she discussed many countermeasures with Brother Guang last night, they failed to implement them and could only improvise on the spot. Probably so. Kurosawa Hikaru is not sure about this either. According to the original plan, they were going to use that photo as a starting point to let Nanami Haru know that her behavior was a crime, and then use the law as a warning, supplemented by the fact that Ichi knows Yuki was better than her, a two-pronged approach. However, after he saw the photos all over the wall and realized Nanami Haru's almost crazy liking for her, he immediately changed the order of his plans. If Sifan comes, she will give up completely. Ichi knows Yuki felt a little regretful that the result was not completely settled. Why do you have to come from Sifan? It will be the same if you come. Kurosawa Hikaru disagrees with this statement. How can it be the same? Ichi knows Yuki didn't think so. She always felt that among Hikaru's 5 girlfriends, the strongest one was Shifunjin Mirai. This is also the reason why her acceptance of Brother Guang's troubles has increased. Because she wanted to understand one thing. If Brother Guang didn't bother, it would be too difficult to compete with Sifan Jiayuan for a man in the future. You are no worse than the future. Even if she doesn't give up completely now, she will realize the difference when you win the title of the most beautiful girl in the country. Seeing that she was belittling herself again and thinking that she was inferior to others, Kurosawa encouraged her. If we really talk about the difference in appearance, the difference between the 5 girlfriends is really not that big. They are all super beauties that are rare to see. Really? Real? Then I'm going to work harder. Realizing this situation, Yuki Ichinos cheered up a lot and had one more reason to want to win the championship. She knew very well that only under the halo could she achieve the most beautiful moments at her peak. For example, Sifan Jiayuan will make a grand appearance in the future in a luxury car, followed by a motorcade. For example, Chizuru Ninomiya appeared as the heroine in 0 Hour's first music recital. For example, Miki Bihar relied on his unparalleled skills and talents to win the championship in the finals of international competitions around the world. The next morning, at the entrance of Kurosawa's house. Dad, Mom, I will come back to see you during the holidays. Kurosawa Hikaru was sitting in the entrance hall, putting on shoes. Are you leaving so early? Why don't you leave after lunch? Kurosawa Yayoi stood aside. Seeing that her son was leaving home again, she was very reluctant to leave him and couldn't help but try to keep him. I have work in the afternoon, so I won't be able to catch up if I go back after lunch. Kurosawa Hikaru shook his head, unable to agree. All right. Kurosawa Yayoi was a little helpless. Guang, actually you don't have to rush to work. Your parents are still in good health and can support you. Kurosawa Yuma saw his wife's sad look and said. How old am I? You have supported me for so many years. It is my turn to support you. I transferred a sum of money to your bank cards. It is a gift from my son. You can spend it as you think. Kurosawa Hikaru tied up his shoelaces and turned to look at the old man, who was 45 years old and already had the traces of time on his face, with great respect. In fact, when he discovered that he had traveled to the parallel world of Neon, he was actually very annoyed. He did not expect to be reincarnated as a Neon man. However, as he grew up, he saw his parents' hard work and love in his eyes, and gradually eliminated the grudge in his heart. Parents are parents, they are the relatives who gave birth to you, love you, raise you, and take care of you. I told you that you don't need to transfer money. Your father and I are both old, so we won't need much money. Kurosawa Yayoi was embarrassed by his respectful eyes and said with a straight face. Forget it, just think of it as saving it for him. Kurosawa Yuma had persuaded her many times on this matter, and knowing that it was useless, he patted his wife on the shoulder. In fact, his family has so many savings, a considerable part of which is his son's money. My father must be more open-minded. Kurosawa Hikaru saw that he didn't say anything more and smiled. If you praise your father at this time, your mother won't be enlightened, right? When Kurosawa Yayoi heard this, she immediately became unhappy and glared at him. Mom, you are indeed not open-minded enough. You love your son so much that you are not even willing to spend the money he gives you. Kurosawa Hikaru spread his hands. If you want to say who loves your children the most in a family, it is definitely the mother. Yuki, did you have fun in Izu Peninsula this time? Kurosawa Yayoi really didn't know if he was praising herself or what he meant. She snorted, then looked at Yuki Ichino's aside and smiled gently. Maybe it was just a few days of getting along, but she really liked this future daughter-in-law. She has a lively and cheerful personality, loves to laugh, is polite and decent, good-looking, very diligent, well-behaved and sensible. The key is that her love for Guang is visible to the naked eye. I'm very happy. Brother Guang is usually very busy. This time he stayed with me for 3 days, and I also met my uncle and aunt. Ichino's Yuki also smiled. That bright and sunny smile made the entrance a little brighter. As long as you have fun, come and play again next time. Let's go, Mom and Dad, bye. Bye, Uncle and Aunt. Bye-bye. Kurosawa's parents said goodbye to them and walked to the gate. After saying goodbye to his family, Kurosawa Hikaru pulled Yuki-chan's suitcase and walked quickly. Go quickly, if you go slowly, you may not be able to leave later. Are you going to miss your flight? With that said, they also quickly headed to the bus stop. The kid walked so fast and in such a hurry. Seeing the figures of her son and future daughter-in-law getting farther and farther away, Kurosawa Yayoi couldn't help but feel a little sad. My son has grown up. Kurosawa Yuma didn't feel that much, but was very pleased. His cultural level was not high, so he could only stay in his hometown on the Izu Peninsula and was unable to go to a big city. But his son is different. Under his upbringing, he was admitted to Dongda University and moved to a big city. He should be able to make a name for himself. Yes. Stop looking, go back and prepare, you have to go out today. Why? In the past few days, many old customers have called me. They were still urging me to leave the stall this morning. You see. Kurosawa Yuma took out his cell phone and handed it to her. He has no worries about his wife seeing any private information on his mobile phone. He and his wife set up a stall together and spend a lot of time together every day. The key is that he only loves his wife and has never had any intention of cheating on her. 1, 2, 3. The father of the child. After taking his mobile phone, Kurosawa Yayoi glanced at it for a few times. Suddenly her expression changed, she yelled and waved to him. What's wrong? Kurosawa Yuma didn't understand what she saw that made her look like this. It makes no sense, they sell Odin, and even if a female customer wants to add her contact information so she can order takeout, she still has to contact his wife. In his mobile phone, apart from relatives, sisters, and former teachers, there is no woman at all. As Minato moved forward, Kurosawa Yuma saw an email from the bank. On September 10, at 8:35 a.m., your account received a transfer from account XXX, with a transaction amount of 100 million and an account balance of 1014583221. 1, 2, 3, 9 digits. Kurosawa Yuma saw this transfer information and counted it subconsciously. 9 digits. 100 million yen. After counting clearly, Kurosawa Yuma was also shocked and screamed. You're going to die for being so loud. The next moment, Kurosawa Yayoi covered his mouth. My son just said he transferred a sum of money to us. Did he transfer 100 million to us? Kurosawa Yuma didn't want to be so shocked, because his bank card balance was originally only more than 1 million yen, and most of the money was stored in his wife's bank card to buy a house for his son in the future. As a result, 7 digits turned into 9 digits. How could he stay calm? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Tokyo's most affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 513. Kurosawa Hikaru ran with Yuki and soon got on the bus. Beep. After successfully getting on the bus to leave home, Kurosawa Hikaru's phone rang again. This time, he didn't leave it alone, but answered it. Guang, why did you transfer 100 million to me and your mother respectively? This was a call from Kurosawa Yuuma, and he finally answered it. His voice was trembling. 100 million, 99% of Japanese people have never seen so much money in their lives. According to purchasing power, this is a super huge sum of money. 100 million is enough to turn a person from an ordinary person into a rich man. What's more, it's more than 100 million. He and his wife's accounts add up to 200 million. Dad, that's all the money I earned from work. What kind of work do you do to earn so much? Isn't it a crime? Did you rob a bank? Robbing a bank doesn't make money so quickly. Kurosawa Hikaru didn't agree with this statement. Robbing a bank seems to be very profitable, but it's not. In fact, the money he transferred to his parents was the contract payment for Cat Carnival. The total value of this contract is 1 billion. Maybe it is not his alone, but he is a partner of the firm and an artist, so he gets the lion's share. Most importantly, he spent less than half a day shooting a few advertising videos and some poster photos for promotion, which was considered fulfilling his obligations. Robbing a bank requires preparation and a lot of trouble. It can be said that there are both benefits and risks, and the cost effectiveness is very low. What? Kurosawa Yuuma was stunned. Robbing a bank doesn't make money so quickly? What does this mean? With his mind and understanding, the fastest way to make money in this world is to rob a bank. I'm in the car, it's not very convenient to talk about it, how about I tell you through line? Kurosawa Hikaru thought about it and decided to make it clear to his parents. Although the identity of Zero Time cannot be made public, it is too much to keep it secret from his parents. And if he doesn't explain it clearly, given his parents' character, they will definitely not want to spend a penny, but save it for him. Okay. Hearing this, Kurosawa Yuuma was shocked. It is not convenient to say in public what kind of work his son is doing. Immediately, Kurosawa Hikaru took out his mobile phone and explained the situation to them. For example, he first asked his parents if they knew Lingxi, and then said that he was Lingxi and gave additional explanations. The 1 billion contract of Cat Carnival was just the first talent that the agency met in the early stage, and it was not the most profitable contract of the agency. The big contracts of Sony, Penguin, and Apple are the real money-making ones. The copyright fee of 100 billion yen and the subsequent share, if this contract is signed, the agency will surely become the top of the industry, and within the 10-year contract period, as long as it does not work to death, it will definitely stand firm. Stars make money, the key is to snowball. It is really difficult to mix in the entertainment industry in Japan. It can be said that you suffer a lot and don't make money. What's more, there are underground idols who lose money to gain publicity. The money they earn in a month is not even as much as others who work part-time. They have to pay the dream tax for their star dream. But once they become famous, the money will come in continuously. This is true for entertainment stars and sports superstars, such as football superstars. As long as you show enough potential and have a loud reputation, capital will extend an olive branch to you. After explaining it clearly, he also persuaded his parents, such as asking them to stop selling Odin, use the money to decorate the house, and go out for a vacation. 100 billion. Yuki Ichino's watched from the side, her eyes widened. She knew that Brother Guang was going to cooperate with big companies like Sony and Apple. After all, she knew that Brother Guang was 0 Hour and a partner of 0 Hour. But this amount is too exaggerated, 100 billion, how many digits is this? The bus went to Doiport and drove for 20 minutes. When they arrived at Doiport, they got off the bus, and Kurosawa Hikari also took this opportunity to temporarily end the chat with his parents. "Brother Guang, are we rushing back to Tokyo just for this contract?" As they went to Doiport to buy boat tickets, Yuki Ichinose asked curiously. "Not just for the contract, there are many other things to do." Kurosawa Guang nodded slightly. "This is the most important thing at the moment. As long as this contract is signed, the agency can be guaranteed to be worry-free for 10 years, and Chizuru's sister can be pulled out of the bank, which can also make Igarashi Runa proud. The rise of the agency can also lay an absolutely solid foundation for Yuki's modeling career. In addition, when the funds are in place, many of his ideas can be implemented. Especially for fashion brands, the understanding of fashion by makeup skills, coupled with the designability of master-level painting skills, and the temporary star effect, this is a clear way to make money." Oh. Yuki Ichinose seemed to understand when she heard this. If she understood correctly, after returning to Tokyo, Brother Guang would be busy again and would not have time to accompany her for the time being. This made her a little regretful, because the National Beauty Girl contest started on Friday, and she wanted Brother Guang to accompany her. However, after thinking about it, she still didn't speak. You know, Brother Guang was very kind to her when he took her back to his hometown this time. Although he was on the road for a short time, he stayed with her for 3 days and 3 nights. Back in Tokyo, because they still had plenty of time, Kurosawa Hikaru and Koyuki had a meal outside. Originally, he wanted to send Xiao Yuki home, but Ichinose Yuki was very sensible and considerate and thought there was no need for him to make a trip. "Brother Guang, bye." At the subway entrance of Shibuya Station, Yuki Ichinose waved goodbye gently, a little reluctantly. "If you miss me, send me a message." Seeing her reluctance to leave, Kurosawa walked forward and held her soft little hand. "Then Brother Guang misses me, so he must remember to send me a message. You never take the initiative to send me a message." Ichinose Yuki muttered in response to this request. She missed Brother Guang, so she would naturally send messages, otherwise she wouldn't send dozens of messages a day. To put it bluntly, her mind was filled with Hikaru Kurosawa, which meant that she would only temporarily put it aside when studying, reading, and dancing classes required concentration and allowed no distractions. "You sent it too diligently, so I can only reply to you." Complaining about this, Kurosawa Hikaru pinched her cheek speechlessly. He also wanted to take the initiative to send a message to Xiao Yuki, but this girl's message was too positive. "Because I miss you." Ichinose Yuki realized that it was his own problem, paused for a moment, and then said coquettishly. After talking sweet words for a while, the two people separated, each having their own things to do. Take Ichinose Yuki for example. She also wants to learn dance and try to work harder before the start of the National Beauty Contest. After bidding farewell to Xiao Yuki, Kurosawa Hikaru called Igarashi Runa and asked her to pick him up. He actually doesn't like being picked up and dropped off, but this is Miss Runa's request. Now is a critical period, and we must act with caution and caution. He took a car directly to the office. If he entered and exited through the gate, he would probably be noticed. In this case, it is better to let her drive to pick her up and drive directly into the indoor garage, so that she is not afraid of being seen. Not long after, Kurosawa Hikaru stood in a conspicuous position on the roadside and was picked up in the car. Runa Igarashi is wearing a women's suit and an OL uniform suit, with a pair of plump legs and ultra-thin black stockings. She looks very tempting. Although she likes fashionable and cool outfits, she has a very important business meeting today and must maintain a correct posture. Whether she is a boss or an agent, as long as she represents the company when discussing work, her words and deeds will represent the company's image. How did uncle and aunt react when they received a transfer of 200 million? Igarashi Runa looked at him through the rearview mirror, very curious. Kurosawa Hikaru asked her to handle the 100 million transfers to the two accounts respectively. I ran fast and he didn't catch him in person. We talked through the phone. Kurosawa Hikaru thought of his father's phone call in the morning, and his lips curled up. Did you run away? It would be better to see their reaction in person. When Igarashi Runa heard this, she couldn't help but feel sorry. She had had this fantasy before. When she made a lot of money, she would transfer a large amount of money directly to her parents to show them how powerful their daughter was. That's good. Kurosawa Hikaru didn't feel it was a pity. Your hometown is in Izu, right? Is it fun? Igarashi Runa thought for a while, maybe it was because of the different family atmosphere, but didn't pay much attention to it, but asked. Izu is a place that makes me feel romantic just by hearing its name. There are the earliest cherry blossoms in the world, gardens, rare fireflies in summer, very simple people, and great hot springs. Although she has an impression, she has not been there yet. Maybe it is because she is nostalgic. Her first trip to a hot spring was in Hakone, so she always went to Hakone. I won't tell you. You're too much. What's the point of just listening to me? Next time you go back to your hometown with me, you'll know if it's fun or not. You have already taken Miss Ichino's back. If you take me home, how will you explain it to your uncle and aunt? Igarashi Runa's eyes widened, not expecting this to be his plan. There is always a way. My parents are very open-minded. Kurosawa Hikaru didn't have a clue for a while, but he wasn't very worried. Igarashi Runa fell into silence. Don't you want to meet my parents? Kurosawa Hikaru, who was sitting in the back seat, asked immediately when he saw that she was silent. I want to go back, but I always find it difficult to handle. You see, I'm older than you, and I'm not your first girlfriend. It's hard for you to explain, and it's hard for me to explain. Igarashi Runa is actually quite moved because she has a good impression of Kurosawa's parents, but she is an adult after all and thinks about things more comprehensively. After all, we have to explain clearly. We can't just not see each other for the rest of our lives, right? It's not that, I'll wait until the children can call them grandparents. After thinking about it for a while, Igarashi thought of a very interesting picture. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 514. The highest bidder wins. After several days of consideration, Apple still offered the highest price of 100 billion yen. As for Sony and Penguin, they were unwilling to pay 100 billion yen, and offered 50 billion and 70 billion yen respectively. It's not that they don't have the money, but they think it's not worth it. This is also related to the company's management decision-making and other aspects. Sony is a super old company in Japan, and it is influenced by the culture of predecessors and successors. In terms of decision-making, even if the young elites encourage it, if the upper level is not satisfied, it is difficult for the plan to be passed. They are willing to pay 50 billion, which is already a sky-high price. You know, they control the music copyrights of various countries in the world, and they are very familiar with the prices in the music market. They think that the price of zero time is too high and not worth it. With so much money, wouldn't it be nice to buy more copyrights of superstars? Although Penguin Music has the ambition to impact the international market, there are two big mountains blocking it, one is Apple and the other is Sony. The decision maker of Penguin should think that the power of zero time alone is not enough to pry these two mountains, and 70 billion is the highest. That is, Apple wants to hit the top of the music market, and the company was founded not long ago, and the new forces are very strong, so it has such courage. Although Kurosawa Hikaru wanted more for this price, he was generally satisfied. As 0 Hour, he debuted not long ago, and even his album has not been released. It is very impressive to be able to win such cooperation with his influence and fame on the internet, his achievements, and a piano recital. The first 10 years of music copyrights, sold 100 billion, plus sales share, how much the final profit will be, but the 100 billion guarantee is enough to satisfy people. In the afternoon, Kurosawa Hikaru and Igarashi Runa met with the person in charge of Apple together. Because the amount involved in this contract is too high, the president of Apple Neon branch came this time. Both parties brought lawyers, from formal meeting to laughing, confirming the contract terms, recognizing their respective obligations, and finally signing. From 2 p.m. to meeting, it took several hours and a long chat before the contract was officially signed. After bidding farewell to the representative sent by Apple and the lawyer, Kurosawa Hikaru and Igarashi Runa went up the stairs together. It's signed. Igarashi Runa held the contract, her face flushed a little, it was the excitement and joy that could not be concealed, surprised and happy. In this cooperation, her vision was not enough, fortunately there was Kurosawa Hikaru. You know, the original copyright fee for this cooperation was only over 10 billion, but Kurosawa made a move and directly negotiated it to 100 billion. What's exciting is that in this contract, 100 billion is just the bottom line, and there is also sales share. Calm down, don't fall. Kurosawa Hikaru saw her silly smile and simply slowed down his pace to support her. Today, Igarashi Runa was wearing an OL suit, which was a decent and formal outfit, and she was wearing black pantyhose and high heels. Although high heels look better on girls, it is easy to sprain your ankle if you don't pay attention when walking. Black silk and high heels, Miss Runa really understands his preferences. After a while, they climbed the stairs and walked into the lounge on the 3rd floor. Kurosawa, you are great, mua, 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 mew. Igarashi Runa put the contract on the table, and couldn't help opening her arms, hugging Kurosawa Hikaru's face and kissing it. She was kissing him crazily, but as one hand wrapped around her waist, lifted her up slightly, it was mouth to mouth. When the payment from Apple arrives, you can open an office in Ginza. After kissing deeply for a long time, Kurosawa Hikaru looked at the smile on her face and felt very relieved and happy. What is the most happy and satisfying feeling in love? In fact, it is not the heartbeat, but the sense of accomplishment. For example, if you carefully prepare a gift for your girlfriend and she is very surprised and excited, it will make people feel that it is worth it. By analogy, when he saw Miss Runa's beautiful reaction, he felt that he was right to be an artist. There's no rush for this, the lease of this house is still a long time away. And your identity is too sensitive, Ginza is too lively, and there are too many people. Isn't your goal to open an office in Ginza? Why don't you want to do it now that you have money? That was my previous goal, not my current goal. Igarashi Runa went to Ginza for a walk, and she was indeed ambitious, wanting to open the first office in Japan in Ginza, but as her vision improved, her ideas had long changed. What is your goal now? Kurosawa Hikaru was not surprised to find that her ideas had changed. People living in this world, according to different ages, as they grow up, at each stage, will have different dreams. Obviously, compared to the beginning, she has grown a lot. Igarashi Runa put her arms around his neck, gently tiptoed, leaned close to his ear, opened her sexy red lips slightly, and whispered word by word. I want to catch up with Chizuru's progress. The whisper in the ear will go straight to the brain and touch the heart. This answer was something Kurosawa Hikaru had not expected. He was shocked and could not help but look at her. His neck and cheeks were tickled by her fine hair, and his heartstrings were tickled by these words. Gurgle. The beauty threw herself into his arms. Kurosawa Hikaru listened to her words, his throat was a little dry, and he couldn't help swallowing his saliva. Okay. Igarashi Runa was actually very shy. After all, she had never seduced a man since she was a child, but for Kurosawa, she risked it? This. Kurosawa Hikaru was wavering in his heart and faced a difficult choice. To be honest, for any man, facing this situation, there is no need to hesitate at all. He wanted to agree, but today was Tuesday, and he promised to take tutoring classes in the future. It was past 5 p.m., and he was already late. If he agreed to help Miss Runa achieve her goal, he might not be able to leave the office tonight. He wanted to refuse, but doing so might hit Miss Runa. Seeing his extremely wavering look, Igarashi Runa was not anxious or angry, but smiled at the corners of her eyes and looked at him leisurely. She knew that Kurosawa was a man with pursuits, and he was more particular about romance, timing, and location. For example, he and Chizuru had to go to Hakone for a date. If it were another man, with a girlfriend as beautiful as Chizuru, why would he go to Hakone? He would probably want to eat Chizuru on the first night of their official relationship. In fact, she could wait, waiting for a romantic date and a perfect night. But opportunities are rare, and she and Kurosawa don't have many opportunities to be alone together. If Kurosawa is willing to put aside his pursuit and rationality for her, she will be satisfied. Ring, ring, ring. Just then, a cell phone rang. Who is so ignorant? Igarashi Runa noticed this, and a trace of anger flashed in her eyes. She took out her cell phone from her suit pocket, and the note was Sony. Ms. Runa, we signed such a big contract today, shall we hold a celebration party tomorrow? As the call was interrupted, Kurosawa Hikaru also said immediately. After thinking about it, he felt that the timing today was still not appropriate. He had already learned a lesson because of Bayu's incident before. It is better to find a suitable opportunity to spend the night with your girlfriend for the first time, which is good for both parties.